Throughout the history of the United States, one group of individuals have risen above the incredible odds to not only reach their goals, but change lives of thousands of people around them. These men and women laid down their life, working tirelessly for a greater good. And while their struggles continued, they continued to see a revitalization of community and self-worth happening in the lives of the people around them. These are their stories, the stories of a people ready for change. These stories have for the first time been gathered together in one of the largest Black history books ever made, looking not just at the people, but discovering their faith and the difference it made in their life. Without a doubt, this is the must-have gift for your family. Stories like that of Harriet Tubman, who escaped from slavery in the South to become a leading abolitionist before the American Civil War. To Frederick Douglass, who was born into slavery in Talbot County, Maryland. He became one of the most famous intellectuals of his time, advising presidents and lecturing to thousands on a range of causes, including women's rights and Irish home rule. Among Douglass's writing are several autobiographies, eloquently describing his experiences in slavery and his life after the Civil War. And Matthew Henson, who with explorer Robert Edwin Perry over 2 decades explored the Arctic and on April 6, 1909 made history, becoming the first Black man to reach the North Pole. Plus, read favorite sermons of famous Black preachers and discover why Black Americans looked to their faith for the answers they needed. The history of our people is rich in culture and diverse with time.
I'm Brother Elliot, the pastor of the King Solomon Baptist Church. I've been the pastor there now for 52 years. I was reared in Decatur, Alabama, in a very segregated area, brought up in a segregated area, and I have suffered quite a bit because of the color of my skin. But I am grateful to know that out of my training, that Mama trained me and taught me that in spite of how I was treated by the white race because of segregation, she taught me out of this Bible and said to me, if you acknowledge the Lord and trust in Him in all of your ways, He will direct your path. At that time, I didn't believe that because I was a young person wondering whether or not that we had 2 gods. I was concerned about how we were being treated with public accommodation, and I was concerned about whether or not that we were separated even with God. 2 gods. Mama said, no, it's only 1 God. And what I was concerned about, we had in our little church coal lamps, wood stove, and right down just a few blocks was a white church, beautiful white church with white peoples in it with electric lights. And the electric pole would only stop right there where they could give the convenience to the white. So Mama said, no, baby, but it's not no 2 gods. She said, you do this. You take this word and trust in God, even though we are being denied now. Take the word. God had made a promise for us to trust God. So I began then to see that all I got to do is trust God and go down there with Fred Shutterworth in Birmingham, Alabama, and start to marching against not racism so bad, but unfair treatment. And we began to march and said to all of the Jim Crows and what have you, that we all are God's children. And we kept doing that so much until it converted a lot of young people, young white people to join us. And it wasn't very long before we was able to get Dr. King to come and lead us in a march. I was thinking about in 1956 is when the U.S. Supreme Court said that racism, segregation was unconstitutional. And yet we were still practicing going to the back of the bus, could not sit in the lunch counter. I had a young white friend of ours. We played together. We went to Colon, Alabama to the restaurant, and we went in. He didn't even know that I couldn't go in there. So when he went in there with me, he and I went in, I was told, says, you go out, I can serve him, but I can't serve you. I said, my God. And he devoured Charles. His name is Charles also. He said, well, if you can't serve him, you can't serve me. And it amazes me, out of all the struggle that we had, that ain't much being said about how the white joined in with us, especially the white young, in spite of how we struggle. We are now being blessed with the opportunity of the word. And in this country, even though we're still having a little racism problem, but we have come a long ways from where we were. Let me share this with you. What my concern is now, for the black, and not only for the black, but for the white and for America, we have left this world, and now we are having all kind of problems. Kids are killing their parents, and parents killing their children. And I believe if we get this word, take this word, in spite of how difficult it is, God will fight our battle. I am a living witness, 52 years. I'm now from the cotton field to the pulpit. I'm looking at how God is bringing us together, white and black working together. I never thought that I would be able to see the white and the black come together and vote for a black man to be the president of the United States. I'm looking at how things have changed, yet we still got a long ways to go, and we need the word. God will change things. He still can divide the Red Sea. He still can lay lions down and let you lay on them. He still can say peace to the water, and the water will be still to a stone. God is still God. What we need to do in America, in spite of the struggle we've had. And I want to take this time now to tell you, if you take the word, the grass grows, flowers bloom, but they also withers away. But the word of God, it'll stand. The Family Roots Bible was written in honor of people of color who has risen from the bondage to the highest position. The reason peoples of color have risen are various. However, the modern foundation has been the church. It has not been just education and government reform, but the ideas, strength, and concept has come from the Word of God. Many Bible prophets and teachers are now declaring this is the time for peoples of color to rise up. It is an interesting fact that the last person to minister to Christ in his time of suffering was Simon. Now, as we near the time of Christ's return, Jesus is ministering to peoples of color. Out of 1 billion, it's only 3 cells that separate us from our Virginia. What amazing that we have made such a big to-do. I would love to share this with you. Reason we need this Bible, because we are being separated and don't realize this. Out of 3 billion cells, only 3 of them that separate us as a race. Why are we making such a big to-do? Out of Adam, if we could just come to the reality and see what the Word have said. Thank God for this Bible, which have the history of what have happened in our lives as a black race of people. We should be proud to be black. Yes, colored is what we was called, but black is seemed to suit me better, because black, when you think about how black protect you from the cancers and what have you, we ought to be proud that God made us black, and be proud of our white brothers who are willing to look in and find the history of what has happened in our lives. You know, when I think about where I have came from and how God has brought us through, I'm thinking about how difficult it was for me in my early age. I came from the cotton field. We had to pick cotton. And when you're picking cotton, I know in this modern day you don't know what I'm talking about. You're picking cotton with a sack on your back. And you have to put somewhere in the neighborhood around 75 or 80 pounds in before the sack would be full. Then you would take the sack and empty it in a wagon. And when you fill the wagon up with 1,300 pounds, that's when we have a bale, a cotton they call it. But then you had to take it to the gin. And my daddy wanted me to go to the gin at 4 o'clock in the morning, take the bale of cotton to the gin at 4 o'clock in the morning so I could get gin early and get back before they fill up the sacks. And you know what I did? I got up that morning, hooked up the wagon, carried the cotton to the gin, got right up under the gin, right up under where it sucks the cotton out and separate the lint from the seeds. Bale of cotton. I'm there waiting for 7 o'clock to come so I could gin the cotton and rush back. While I'm there, tractors and wagons, they're lining up all the way back, maybe almost a half a mile back, and I'm in the front. And when they cranked up the gin, a white brother came to me and said, "Hey, nigga, what you doing with your wagon in front of us? Pull that wagon out." Because the color of my skin, I had to pull the wagon out and go all the way back to the back. And it was 4 o'clock that evening before I could get my cotton gin, just because I was black. You can't change your heart with legislation. You can change your heart with the word. When the word come in, it'll make your enemies leave you alone. I'm reminded of the time when God had told Moses, said, "Moses, don't worry about the Red Sea. You tell those people to hold their peace. So I'll fight the battle." And then God turned around and hardened the hearts because he have to get the glory. God have to get the glory. He hardened the heart of Pharaoh and told Pharaoh, since they're entrapped, to go down there and get them. But that word of God had done already gave Moses confidence. He told the people, even though they were grumbling and complaining and saying, "You have brought us out here to die, we don't have no graves." But the word of God told Moses to tell them to hold our peace. I'll fight your battle. And then the Bible tells me that Pharaoh came and got his 600 chariots and got all of his people going back after the Israelites. And God let him get pretty close, and he took his power and brought it down a dark cloud. And told the dark cloud, say, "You hold right there. And I'm going to put a pillar, I'm going to put a light in the cloud to be a light for the Israelites, darkness for the Egyptians." What I'm trying to tell you all today is in this word. When this word has been preached, when this word has been used, I promise you God will fight your battle for you. I done seen them do it, y'all. Here's what I'm telling you. We need this Bible. We need this word. If we want our children to get off of drugs, if we want our kids to come home, if we want to get rid of the homosexuals and lesbians, it's going to take the word. You can't legislate righteous. You're going to have to preach it. You're going to have to teach it. You're going to have to walk it. It's in the word. It's in the word. My mind now goes back to the time when Dr. King had asked all of us young people to come to Memphis at a march that was going on for the garbage tippers and also for the nurses that worked in the hospital to get fair pay. We were marching and sharing, and it created a lot of problems. A lot of young men got fired because they joined the march. I was a young fellow doing the singing, and I could get the young people to come and march with us. On that particular night, just the night before, Dr. King had shared with us there in Memphis. He said to us, "You know, I don't feel right today." He said, "You know, I feel like something going to happen."
And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
He went home that night, went back to Georgia, talked to Junior, that's his boy, and his wife, and had them to know, if I don't get back, I'm just out here doing God's will. God will take care of you. And then he came on back. That next night, he was telling Ralph Abernathy, he said, I don't feel like I'm gonna be able to do this. Ralph, why don't you go and you speak for me? Ralph told him, there's so many people there waiting on you. Dr. King, you're gonna have to go. They were sitting in the little old room there where all of us eating some chicken dumplings. And finally, Dr. King decided to get up and go out and scratch. And we thought maybe because he was scratching that he would have slipped off and gone on back to Georgia. And somebody, I don't remember who it was, went out and looked, and there he was laying with his leg on the ramp and blood coming out of his head. He had been assassinated. I'm a little upset when I talk about this because every time I think about it, it brings to my memory of what Jesus said would happen. If you lose your life for my sake, you will gain it again. And I don't want to get into that, but I'm excited about how God done blessed us in spite of the assassination. This world still is in God's hand. And I promise y'all, if we stay with the word, don't let nobody fool you. It will see you through. I'm talking about the word here. I want everybody to have this Bible. Number one, it is the word of God. It will stand when nothing else will. Number two, it has the history of the blacks and what they have contributed and how they have suffered down through the years to get where we are now through this word. This is all we had, was the word of God. It was our sword. It was our battle lamp. So what I'm saying, I would like for everybody to have this Bible. It has the history of the blacks, such as myself, who grew up in a segregated country like Wheeler, Alabama.